Hello friends, welcome to DNA Forum. Today we'll be discussing about active transport and passive transport. So here we're going to discuss about two types of transport where there is exchange of material in case of body or in case of specifically cell. Okay, so let's discuss one by one. So if you visualize the diagram over here, in the left side it is showing the passive and it is right side it is showing the active transport. Okay, so just visualize the passive transport first. Okay, so if you visualize your passive transport, so here diffusion process is being occurred. Okay, that means exchange of solute particles from higher concentration gradient to the lower concentration gradient. Okay, now what is concentration gradient? Concentration gradient is something like it is a gradual change of the amount of solute when a degree of change of amount, like in solution particularly. Specifically if we'll talk, so in solution the amount of solute define the concentration gradient, and here the diffusion process is being occurred. That means exchange of particles from higher concentration to lower concentration. Okay, but specifically if we'll talk about active transport, here ATP involvement is there. See, the involvement of ATP will be there. Just a second. Yeah, the involvement of ATP. That means, see here the like substance is being transferred from lower concentration gradient to higher concentration gradient. That means the force of concentration gradient is like forcing upon from higher concentration to lower concentration, like always. But in active transport there is involvement of protein carrier, and like which creates a channel in which the substance of the particles are moving from lower concentration gradient to higher concentration gradient due to the help of ATP. That means ATP is providing the energy which is required for this active, like for this action, and this action is being done by protein carrier. Okay, so let's discuss one by one. So specifically in passive transport, energy is not required. Okay, and ATP is also not required, and but active transport, energy is required in form of ATP. Yeah, obviously, see the diagram over here again. ATP is required in case of active transport, and in passive transport there is no requirement of ATP or no requirement of energy. Okay, coming to the second point, so down a concentration gradient from high to low concentration, as I said earlier. But in case of active transport, it is from lower to higher concentration. Okay, that means it is acting against the concentration gradient. Mark the point, it is acting against the concentration gradient. Okay, and thirdly, facilitated diffusion requires the use of protein carrier and transport the molecules. That means a protein carrier is specifically required in case of facilitated diffusion. See here, in case of normal diffusion there is no need of protein carrier, but if we're talking about facilitated diffusion, that means yeah, at that particular time we may require a protein carrier. Okay, while in case of active transport, some types like different types of protein carrier is required for the transport of molecules. And lastly, include osmosis and simple diffusion, are which are the like come under the passive transport, which do not require any special protein carrier and transport molecules. Okay, at the same time in case of active transport we includes endocytosis. Endocytosis in the sense moving of substance or particles from outside the cell to inside the cells. Two types of, like one is endocytosis, another is exocytosis, but active transport shows endocytosis. Okay, and movement of large molecules into a cell. The cell membrane folds around the molecules. Okay, and point wise, so difference between active and passive transport, it is like energy in case of active is highly required, or like you require the cellular energy in form of ATP, and in passive transport there is no requirement of cellular energy, and circulation is from lower to higher in case of active transport, and in case of passive transport it is from higher to lower. Okay, and if we'll talk about the process, it is very fast because involvement of ATP is there, so it is visualizing the effect, and it is like creating impact upon the process to fasten the process. Okay, and passive transport it is very much slow as compared to active, and carrier protein is required in case of active transport. In passive transport is not required, but yes, if it is talk a case of facilitated diffusion, then might be requirement will be there. Okay, and direction unidirectional in case of active transport, and in passive transport it is bidirectional in nature. Okay, so this is all about your active transport and passive transport.